All right, chapter 20, in which the sun shines and we learn what befell the whipping boy, the prince, and everyone else. Standing in the clear sunshine, the prince breathed in the sweet, fresh air. Then he looked Jemmy squarely in the eyes. We're going back to the castle. Not me. Your pa's put a price on this head of mine. No, thank you, prince. I don't fancy doing a jig from the end of a rope. What is he saying is going to happen to him?
He's gonna hang up.
Yeah, he'll be
He's
hung.
gonna hang up and.
Where will you hide for the rest of your life? The prince asked. In the sewers? I'd have them searched, end to end. Oh, what a fool he'd been to let the prince in on his best hiding place. Jemmy was on the verge of running. But where to? How far would he get? You said you trusted me, declared the prince, but I can see you didn't mean it. I meant it, up to a point, Jemmy said. Then follow me. It was a command. That means he wasn't asking him. He told him he must do this. Jemmy swallowed hard and followed. They weren't at the castle gates yet. He'd think of something. So right now, as we're finishing these last few pages of the whole book, I want you making a prediction in your head. You know how Prince Brat was at the very beginning, and you know what Jemmy felt like, or felt about Prince Brat. You've seen how Prince Brat has changed and how Jemmy has changed. Prince Brat is telling him, you said you trusted me, and he's bringing him back to the castle where the king wants him. How?
Either dead or alive.
Right? Yes. So, make a prediction about what's about to happen. In your head, keep it in your head. As things begin to unfold, if you need to change it, you can change it. The prince led him back onto the fairgrounds and searched out Betsy and the hot potato man. You've served your prince nobly, he announced. What are you talking about, lad? Replied Captain Nips. Hot, hot, hot potatoes. The king has offered a reward for the whipping boy. Here he stands. Turn him in. Does that sound like you can trust the prince?
No.
And Jemmy stood dumbfounded. He felt betrayed. Oh! Betsy flashed her eyes. Turn Jemmy in? I'll do no such thing. I command it, Prince Brat said. Who are you to command anything? I'm Prince Brat. Ha! Run for it, Jemmy thought. Deeply wounded, he gave the prince a last blazing look. The prince returned a quick, playful wink. It befuddled Jemmy for an instant, and then in a flash, Jemmy saw that for the first time, the prince was up to a kindly piece of mischief. So depending on what your prediction was, if you began to think, hey, he's going to betray Jemmy again, you need to rethink what just happened. Okay, he told them, I command you to turn Jemmy in. Jemmy gives him a blazing look, which means he looks at him how?
Like weeks or like.
If I give you a blazing look.
Mad look.
Yep, very angry. And what does the prince do?
Gives him a playful wink.
Does this. Right? What does this mean if somebody gives you a wink?
Pretend.
They're pretending something. Head to toe, he's Prince Brat, said Jemmy. Better do what he says or he'll have you boiled in oil. And then we have a little space here. What does that mean?
Your paragraph.
Not just a new paragraph.
Someone was speaking.
No. Whenever there's a space there, it usually either the entire scene is changing, like right now they're at the fairgrounds and maybe now they'll be at the castle, or time has passed. Okay? So you read on to find out. But if there's more of a space, it's telling you that part is over. Okay? Jemmy just said, yes, he's Prince Brat. They're not going to talk about that anymore. Okay? Jemmy had to wait with Betsy, Petunia, and Captain Nips while the prince was alone with the king. So what has happened? They were just at the fairgrounds and now
they're at the castle.
Now they're at the castle. The king knows he's back. Finally, a pair of golden doors were opened and the group was ushered into the throne room. The king sat with his legs crossed and the merest flicker of a smile on his lips. Betsy bowed low and Captain Nips did the best he could. The reward is yours, the king announced, and then he turned to the prince. What about the bear? Came to your rescue, did he? Couldn't we give him the title of official dancing bear to your royal majesty, Papa? He'd draw crowds wherever he went. Done. Betsy and Captain Nips were dismissed. Jemmy now stood alone. It seemed hours while the king gazed at him. He began to feel a noose tightening around his neck. You ought to be whipped, the king said. Yes, my lord, Jemmy said. Prince Horace? Who's Prince Horace?
Prince Brat.
Prince Horace has caused enough mischief to wear out the hides of a dozen whipping boys. He tells me it's thanks to you that he's back, sound and safe. The king thanks you. Jemmy took a small breath. You are placed under the prince's protection, under one condition. He has sworn to do his lessons, blow out his candle at night, and otherwise behave himself. Jemmy's eyes flicked to the prince. Ugh, he thought, you must want me for a friend awful bad to promise all that. So help me, if it's a friend you ran off looking for, it's a friend you found. Dismissed, both of you, said the king, but do change out of those smelly clothes. Retreating toward the golden doors, the prince beside him, Jemmy felt a sparkle rise into his eyes. You got me off without so much as a single whack, he whispered. I couldn't bear all the yowling and bellowing, Prince Brat said. I wouldn't yowl and bellow, but I would, Jemmy. And Jemmy caught the twinkle in his eyes. Why would Prince Brat cry if Jemmy got whipped?
Because they're friends now.
Almost at the doors, they were stopped by the king's voice. One more thing, the king broke into a smile you could warm your hands over. If you boys decide to run away again, take me with you. And then there's some space there. So what does that mean?
We're talking about a new thing or time has passed.
Correct. In the days that followed, ballad sellers began to cry out new and final verses of the notorious life of Hold Your Nose Billy and his partner, Cutwater. An old rat catcher had seen them flee from the sewer, and he'd seen them stow away aboard a ship, raising its sail for a long voyage. It was a convict ship. Do you know what a convict is?
No.
A prisoner, like a criminal, bound for a speck of an island in distant waters, a convict island. So they had all those rats on them. They ran to get away from the rats. They're probably kind of pushing them off, and they ran onto a ship, and the ship they got on was a convict ship, a prisoner ship. So they sailed to an island, and now they are what? Prisoners. All right, that's the end of the story, but I wanted to read you the little note and tell you something about it from the author. It says, the author says, readers often write to ask if a story is true. This tale is a work of the imagination, but the most surprising part of it is true. Some royal households of past centuries did keep whipping boys to suffer the punishments due to a misbehaving prince. History is alive with lunacies and injustices. As Jemmy would say, gah. Now, one of the things I read about that is that the whipping boy, usually they would get him in the house when the prince was pretty young, and he did do all of the studies with the prince. He was with the prince all the time, so they usually became friends. So it actually was a punishment for the prince to see his friend whipped, and it was to be that this is your friend, so behave so we don't have to whip your friend, and you have to watch that. So it there was a little bit better thinking of it, but it didn't work for Prince Brat until they ran away, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
I never
the
did
end
that.